Hello everyone! So, this is behind the scenes of a small animation that I've just done that I'll probably release after this. Where this started with me wanting to animate things again. The last animation that I did was kind of a massive project, so I just wanted to do something small. And yeah, this kind of spiraled out of control. But it was on a much smaller scale, so it was easier to handle. Anyway, after just finishing Undertale and getting ready for Deltarune to play that, I wanted to animate something, so I was looking at Source Filmmaker or Blender models, and Kali 3D here in Source Filmmaker's workshop does a load of Deltarune models, so I wanted to animate them. The thing is that I wasn't prepared to spend the time to learn Source Filmmaker, even though it would have probably solved quite a few problems. I just didn't feel like I wanted to bother with that, and I wanted to really sort of just get into things, so I ended up downloading an importer for Blender, and yeah, this is where things get interesting. Mainly, what ended up happening was I wanted to just animate a small scene of Jevil, just doing like a drop animation, just to see what would happen, and it spiraled out of control into this massive scene, which is basically the entire introduction, except dialogue, for meeting Jevil, just with a little bit of my own sort of take on it. And this resulted in a lot of different things. So here we've got the boys, or the party, and they walk up, and then the actual bit that I'd planned for here was this bit now, where Jevil drops down. Now, the reason why I'm showing this is primarily just to show you where it all began, because I just wanted Jevil on his own, not the three party members as well, and it ended up with me modelling the carousel and then getting all the models together from Kali and putting them in the same scene and getting them to work. And the reason why I've got this open is primarily because there are things in the final video that you may miss out on, but I knew I wanted to animate. And I knew I wanted the scene to be a contrast of light and dark, a bit like the game. And yeah, let's just open the work in progress here, because I hardly ever show off stuff like this, but I figured I'd give you a little bit of a walkthrough here. So a few of these are the same up top, but we've also got some more interesting little takes on things. So for instance, in no particular order, I think we've got the party moving, which started off with this one called Susie, and this one is just the party moving. But the thing is, there's a very primitive animation going on for both Susie and Ralsei, but Chris isn't there, and that's mainly because I did these individually by hiding them and then animating the next one and then hiding them and animating the next one. And because of the way that the bones work in here and also are imported from Source Filmmaker, it meant that they didn't have any IK rig, or at least I don't think they do, so it was a little bit harder to move things, and at the same time I couldn't just copy animations over seemingly, so I had to animate 4 characters by hand, including different walk cycles and things. So I was trying to get things accurate here, and then here's the one with Ralsei, where you can see there's like placeholders for Chris and Susie, but they just kind of slide onto camera, so I get an idea of where they come on, primarily because I knew I wanted them coming out of the shadows here on the carousel with it not moving, but I wanted them in the party lineup like the game, so when you look at them from the side, I don't think I've got any side shots, but when you look at them from the side, they appear how they would in game, with them stacked up in a row, so you can see every single one of them very clearly. Then we started messing around with different ideas. We've got Jevil throwing his Jevil knife or his scythe at the party, and this was an interesting one because I wanted, again, to try and get this kind of accurate. So what we've got here is the Jevil knife is thrown, it lands in the floor instead of going past the party like it does in the game, and for the animation here I ended up attaching a box, which you'll see in some of the Jevil animations, to the bottom or the root bone of the characters to make them move, and then just hid the boxes. So we have that moving the characters underneath the carousel, but then it's hidden out of sight for like test renders and things, so I can see what it looks like. But that was a cool way of just cheating here on the movement, but also on top of that, I had to move Ralsei here, and the animations are very, very emotive in sprite form. So I wanted to kind of capture that, and ended up, because I didn't have the sprites at the time, at least not for Ralsei, ended up doing like this Looney Tunes style thing where I ended up half referencing the game, half referencing I think it was Wile E. Coyote in an episode of Roadrunner for the skirt pose at the end, which looks kind of cool, and in a little bit of a close-up, because of the shape keys on the face, it can actually make him have like a little shocked face. As for Susie, Susie kind of slides backwards a little bit and defends herself. It's a little bit more sprite accurate. I'm not so sure I like it in the preview here because it's really primitive, but what ends up happening in the actual animation looks a little bit better. Then you've just got Chris kind of looking at it like, what's going on here? Then we got, I think, a shot of that in color. There we go. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. This was... Oh. So we'll scrub through this. This was just Ralsei on his own. And this was before we attached the movement boxes. So as you can see, this is just the animation on its own. And then me having to come up with a solution for making him jump backwards like he does in the game. And then on top of that, we got the test render of him jumping backwards with Susie not moving, because I don't think I animated Susie at this point in time. I tried to do them all individually, one at a time, to get the best out of them. Then, of course, later on we've got a bit of Jevil, because I wanted to then focus a bit more on Jevil. So we got him doing this primitive laughing animation. I think this is where I was testing to see just the speed of the animation and get the keyframes right. So we've got him belly laughing and then laughing backwards, which I kept like that because I honestly thought that it was a decent one there. And then for this one, I wanted to try and get the Jevil knife to come back to finish off the engagement, so I ended up doing this kind of like dramatic thing while zooming in on Chris here, because I wanted to give every character their own little bit of the spotlight. So at the beginning it's Ralsei, then it's a little bit of Susie for a close-up, then Chris, and then Jevil. So we've got this close-up where we have Chris stood right next to the Jevil knife, and it's wobbling, and then the idea is that it eventually flies back to Jevil. And at this point in time, I was trying to go over different ideas. As you can see, when I scrub through the time here, the Jevil knife is now gone, meaning it's returned to him, but I wanted to do this kind of thing where the other ones fall down, because he has 4 of them, or splits into 4 of them in-game. So I wanted to try and replicate that, and I was going with this kind of idea similar to Soul Calibur 1's intro here as a little reference, where the fall down, the camera sort of goes in between them and then zooms in on Jevil to make it look dramatic. The only problem was, when I tried this, I couldn't pull it off well. I think this might show it. No, it's the same animation. But yeah, the animation was all kind of weird, so I had to kind of figure something out. In the meantime, though, the actual animation itself I was really happy with, the dancing one. What ended up happening was I wanted to just try and get it as accurate as possible, so I ended up doing 2 separate poses and then scrubbing between them with an idle animation, and just tilting him sideways. You can see the bottom here. This is where we have the movement cube, and that's the actual thing that spins on its root. I wanted to give Jevil that sort of jester feeling that he has, but I also wanted to have him spin a little bit, mainly because I liked the animation or the spin that I did for Ralsei, which you'll see in the full version. I just thought it was appropriate having him mess around with the party. So we've got this very sort of like simple dance animation, which originally I didn't think would work too well because of the amount of keyframes in it. But no, seems to have worked pretty fine. And then we've got him scrubbing back to his kind of like his taunt animation that he does like as he lands at the beginning of the engagement, where he's talking to the party. So he spins, scrubs straight into his animation where he's basically like, "Come at me, will you?" And then finally, Oh, before we get to that, sorry. Before that, we have a quick shot of the side. This is what I was on about before. This is the side where we have all the characters lined up, and you can just about see Jevil here landing. The idea is I wanted, again, like I was saying, to do the whole thing of emphasizing lighting, but still trying to keep the characters in the dark, similar to the game. So Jevil's area is lit up just a little bit brighter, just because he's the focus. But we have this spotlight thing going on, very similar to like a circus or whatever. The idea being that the party walks out of the darkness where they've just come through in the game into this spotlight, which then starts the engagement. And then I was trying to figure out what was going on with the rest of the animation. I think this is another test for his dance. Yeah, that was when he didn't have his idol or his taunt at the end. But then I was trying to figure out how to finish this off. I was looking at different references and trying to figure out what I could do that wasn't the Soul Calibur reference that I was trying to do before, and I ended up putting his little symbols in to represent like the stack of cards. And when I did this, I started going for all kinds of references, like Fate Stay Night or whatever, by doing a Gilgamesh with the Gate of Babylon and having the cards behind him and then having the Jevil knives coming through them. But again, I couldn't pull that off really well, and I thought this looked intimidating enough with the card symbols over the back of his head. So instead, what I went for was the animation where he actually dances, the card things appear, he does a little dance and a taunt, and then the Jevil knives, here they're in a placeholder position from where I was going for them appearing, but I ended up having them slam into the ground, which was still pretty intimidating in keeping with the beginning of the engagement or the chat with him. But this bit was pretty cool, and I ended up messing around with lighting again and emissive properties. You can see they glow quite a lot. Again, this is carried over from the Gate of Babylon idea. I wanted them to glow and look intimidating, even though they were going to be just portals for weapons. But at the same time, it's pretty cool because it lights up the entire area really well. One thing that I was having a problem with doing so much stuff in darkness was that a lot of the stuff just didn't show up easily, like the Jevil knives. So having these in the background kind of backlight everything was really cool. It's just a case of keeping the lighting a little bit toned down. Admittedly, I think I kind of got a little bit of a headache from how bright these are, but it's pretty cool having him seemingly sat there intimidating and having these card symbols in the background kind of symbolizing what's going to happen in the fight. Also, as we scrub through here, just finally, I didn't know how to really manipulate things with Blender in terms of video. But putting things together was crazy, primarily because I've not used Blender for video editing before. I used to use After Effects, and then it ran out, so having to resort to Blender here. But here's a little bit of a scrub through without the textures, and the best thing I like about this is just how cute everybody looks with physics. I ended up messing around with physics a lot in this because I wanted to add a little bit of personal flair to it and a little bit of character. So what you end up having is, especially in this starting bit, Ralsei's hair for the fringe and the sides moves, the tip of his hat moves, and all of his robe moves underneath as well. Susie's hair moves at the back, and a little bit of a jacket moves, and a bit of Chris's hair at the back, which is why it's in this position at the moment, because it's kind of facing forwards. And his scarf also animates with physics. Ralsei's scarf, I had to animate that by hand because it wasn't working out quite well for me, but it came out quite convincing, and I like it. I just love the way the physics make everything bob and look a lot more realistic, because I've not done organic animations before, only like mechanical. As you can see here, I put physics on the end of Jevil's tail, the top of his cap, his coat, and his ears as well, so that gives him a little bit of a little bit more of a realistic feeling. You can see like when he moves his hat all the points on his hat move. Then we've got when Ralsei jumps backwards, the top of his hat moves how you would expect. But again, I keyframed by hand his scarf, so it's not as good as the other physics. But I found that, especially with the scarf and with Jevil's arms at one point, animating them a little bit by hand was okay, and I made it look kind of convincing compared to the rest. And we got like a little zoom in here. We can see Ralsei's shocked face. Again, that's what I was on about before with the shapes, the shape keys for the face. And then we've got Susie steps up and has a smile going. Susie's smile's pretty cool, how it slowly progresses over time. It gets bigger and bigger until she's ready to fight. And then there's the bit where Ralsei does a little spin as well. And then we got Jevil doing his belly laugh. The knife comes out. Here's where the trickery is, because this is all the planes that the card textures appear on. Normally they're see-through and everything because of the material, but they're just textures on planes that appear in the background. What happens is they're under the floor originally, and then they, in one frame, shoot up here and enlarge, which helps out selling the idea that they're just magically appearing as he dances. And then we've got him spinning around, his tail follows him, swings back into place. I had some problems originally with his tail clipping through his shoulder when I was trying to give him more springiness to it, so I ended up playing around a little bit and then just settling on what we have here. And of course he does his taunt, the two Jevil knives slam into the floor, and then he says bye bye, and we get the end of the animation. Either way, I hope you like the full animation when it comes out. It doesn't have any music, but it does have the sounds. And yeah, it's taken a little bit of work, taken just over a day, I think. But I enjoyed this. Nice little process. I thank everybody again for, you know, the models and stuff. Kali 3D for the characters and everything from Source Filmmaker. If you want to get those yourself, head over there. I'm going to see you guys later on, and I hope you enjoyed the full video. So until then, thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown. Bye!